Quem é o público do museu? No quarto episódio da temporada Museus, os gestores de 5 instituições refletem sobre o público e apresentam as estratégias que consideram eficientes para atraí-lo e engajá-lo. Série Gestão Cultural Mundo Afora. Mais uma troca de ideias sobre métodos e estratégias de gestão cultural está começando. Olá, eu sou Daniele Canedo e nos episódios anteriores da série Gestão Cultural Mundo Afora, nós falamos sobre gestão econômica e financiamento, sobre conservação do acervo e sobre a produção de exposições permanentes e temporárias. Neste episódio, nós trataremos de uma das peças principais do quebra-cabeça dos museus, o público. Afinal, quem é esse público e como engajar e atrair esse público? Confira!
Na verdade, a pergunta é curiosa porque me vem à cabeça agora uma matéria que saiu num jornal aqui no começo de 2011, em que eles fizeram uma triagem sobre qual a porcentagem dos habitantes de Salvador que frequentavam, frequentavam espaços de lazer. E aí dava 80%, 80% frequentava a praia, 30% frequentava o cinema, o que já é uma porcentagem bem baixa, e a porcentagem de museus era uma porcentagem de míseros 8%, o que é muito pouca gente.
We have to invent the new museum, and as concerns more specifically the financial aspect, we have to find the good organization, and it's a really important debate. By example, in an old-fashioned museum, you could find antiquities and hundreds of ancient Greek vases. We have that in Brussels. Why 100 vases? It's long, it's boring. You have to select 5, 6, the most important, the most beautiful, and you have to build a narrative on this. And it's really complicated because when you're managing that, you are thinking about the public. But what's the public? If you are an archaeologist, you are the public. The specialists are the public. And they will say, no, we want to get the 100 vases on the place. But if you are a tourist visiting this kind of museum, you're just interested to see the beautiful sculpture, a couple of vases, to understand maybe something. And you're ready to understand what's 5 vases, but not hundreds. So all the museums have to decide what's the public. And that's a real challenge.
Before, I think like 50 years ago, the audiences were not considered to be different. There was one audience and there was like one-dimensional direction versus that one audience. We as a museum would show artworks, and they had to listen to us or they had to look at it, but this was only in one direction. Whereas today it is recognized, and museums do have to recognize that there are a lot of audiences. And so we try to respond to the needs of all these different audiences. We try to be as responsive as possible because I think that's what today is necessary. The public has evolved so much that we cannot be like only a museum where we conserve and restore works, but we have to be very open to the public. Because of course, without conservation and restoration, we don't have anything. But before, I think the public was like, okay, it was also the very exclusive culture, but now we have democratized the culture. And in this way, it's a human right to come to museum because the heritage is public. So we have to share it with everybody, and we have to give the means to learn more about it, and that's one of the big tasks of the museum.
Our idea has always been and still remains create a museum which is for everybody. It's very difficult. Museums are, I think, the only products that have to have the ambition to be accessible and work towards many audiences. All the other economical products, they just focus on one specific group. Museums are for everybody. So we try to come up with product diversity, which is interesting for not only people from different kind of ethnical backgrounds, but also from different kind of ages and other aspects.
Nós temos em torno de 180 a 200 mil visitantes por ano. O público das exposições e dos outros eventos do museu é bastante variado. Como eu falei, nós temos diferentes eventos acontecendo aqui, não só na área das artes visuais, como também de música, por exemplo. Então, o público que vem para as exposições normalmente também vai ver outros eventos e o público desses outros eventos, eles aproveitam e também visitam as exposições.
We have a number of different types of people that come to the National Gallery. There are those people who are regulars. They will come to see the permanent collection, but they will come again and again when they have temporary exhibitions to see something new and to see our old master permanent collection in a different light. Another group of people will be people who have perhaps never been to the National Gallery, but as a result of doing an exhibition, they will come and hopefully enjoy themselves, and as a result we hope that they will return. You also find that exhibitions will draw a lot of people internationally, perhaps people that are in London as tourists. The National Gallery is an iconic place to come, and if you have a major exhibition, that's another reason for them to visit. Exhibitions are also very important in enabling researchers, academics to come and have a complete in-depth insight on one particular period of art or one particular artist.
For instance, primary and secondary school, also we start with nursery as well. Then we have the adult groups, so then you have also the individual visitor, but also the family. We try to start also a lot of projects with the families. Then you have also the made-to-measure public. I mean, these are the people, for instance, who economically or socially are excluded, or the disabled people, the visually impaired, the deaf people, but also the people who are in psychiatric clinics, for instance. So we have all these different programs for all these different audiences. So you could consider that we have the visitor, but that's really too general, because there is also the virtual visitor today. That's also very new for the museums, and we try to respond also to their needs. Then there is also the consumer. We could also look at the visitor as somebody who is giving money to the museum by a ticket or by buying something in the museum shop, or by consuming an exhibition, for instance. So that's also another way to look at your visitor.
O museu ele não tem exatamente o que a gente pode chamar de estratégia de marketing. A gente não trabalha com publicidade em si. O que a gente tem é um núcleo formado basicamente por jornalistas e designers, e que trabalha muito a assessoria mesmo. Então, a nossa política de comunicação é muito voltada para a ideia da produção interna, porque nós não somos só assessores de imprensa, a gente produz conteúdo para dentro do museu também. Então, a gente não pode, enfim, comprar horário na rádio, na TV, ou espaço no jornal, ou qualquer coisa do tipo. A gente tem que apostar, primeiro no que é espontâneo, e aí a gente dá muita sorte do museu aqui, do MAN, a ser um ponto, não somente um ponto turístico, mas um ponto de interesse no geral para a cidade de Salvador, para o estado da Bahia. E acho que por fim a gente tem experimentado, mas não é uma coisa que está sólida de verdade ainda, fazer algumas promoções em redes sociais, premiando os ganhadores com catálogos daqui do museu, catálogos de exposição, livretos, enfim, o material que a gente mesmo produz aqui dentro. Mas eu não diria que essa é uma política que está exatamente solidificada, não. É uma coisa mais para ser chamado de experimentação mesmo.
O núcleo de comunicação trabalha também com blog, utilizando as redes sociais. Temos uma newsletter, enviamos convites sempre de todas as atividades que estão sendo realizadas no museu para essa mala direta. e, obviamente, a divulgação que é feita, né, junto aos meios de comunicação.
Marketing is very important, having a presence through our marketing. That perhaps the most popular media that we use is advertising. And so we advertise nationally on the trains, on posters. We advertise in London because London is of course an important market as well. And we have very big posters at the underground stations. We appear on bus sides, we advertise on taxis, so very much sort of out there in London and out in the regions. Another important way of just reminding people all the time that the National Gallery is here and that there's so much to see is we advertise in all the guidebooks and all the sort of what's on publications. In London, the famous one is Time Out. And anybody who wants to be out and about in London will buy Time Out and read it and find out what's on. So we will make sure that the National Gallery is always there, taking a listing and advertising in those sort of publications. And continually telling the public through the media about the National Gallery and about the extraordinary collection of European paintings is also important. So you see any week that there'll probably be features in newspapers and in periodicals about different aspects of the National Gallery and its work.
We have very, very good relationships with the agencies who are set up by government to promote the UK overseas, so that's Visit Britain. And most of our marketing work and communications work is specifically with those agencies because they are the aggregators of all the cultural information that they then package out and they send to different territories. And in addition to that, we also work very much with the guidebooks, so the travel guidebooks where we have new exhibitions or new galleries opening to make sure that we are a must-see venue.
We use also email, so if there is a special event, for instance, for the teachers, a Teachers' Day, where we prepare them for an exhibition, for instance, or we talk with them, we give them a conference on a certain theme. Then what we do is send them an email. So all the people who had made bookings, they have their email because their booking is done by email. And so we send them a personal invitation by email. And for me, the Friends Association is like a good basis because they talk about the museum, they share their love for the art with their environment, and it's a great channel of promotion and communication.
A filosofia do museu é que o museu seja um espaço não só para abrigar exposições, como muita gente ainda tem essa visão, né? Às vezes tem até um certo preconceito. Eu vejo minha sobrinha um pouco mais nova, museu, velho, tem a ideia agregada de museu como uma coisa velha, antiga. E que a gente sabe, pelo menos quem tem interesse, quem trabalha na arte de cultura e quem frequenta, sabe que não é mais assim hoje em dia, nem aqui, nem no mundo. Então a filosofia do MAN, como esses outros museus, é que agregue todas as outras linguagens e suportes de arte. Então, nosso interesse é realizar projetos audiovisuais, nosso interesse é agregar música, nosso interesse é agregar performances, e não só pinturas ou esculturas ou obras bi ou tridimensionais, não só exposições, que faça desse espaço, que é um espaço público, um espaço que possa abrigar projetos culturais interessantes para a cidade e para o público.
Mediação cultural é o lugar que o museu entra em contato direto com o visitante. A gente aqui do MAN tem uma equipe de mediadores que é voltada, né, não para explicar a exposição que está acontecendo, e sim para trocar informações, aguçar a imaginação do visitante. A cada exposição a gente pesquisa e a gente estuda que vai complementar também essa mediação. No caso dessa exposição aqui agora, a gente pesquisou quebra-cabeças, né, tangrãs, jogos de montar, imãs, né? Tem uma ação aqui em que os visitantes eles usando os carimbos, usando papel, né?
eles fazem um postal convidando um amigo ou um parente para vir ver a exposição que está em cartaz aqui no MAM. Essas ações elas são muito importantes para o contato do visitante com a exposição, né, e consequentemente com a obra de arte, porque elas aproximam, elas tiram o visitante, né, o espectador da exposição, da relação de passividade, né, diante uma obra de arte, diante um trabalho, e os coloca numa relação mais ativa, né, da experiência mesmo, da experimentação.
Today, the public, especially the young persons, they want to participate. So that's another type of visitor. You have the participant who wants to participate and who wants to come to the conferences, who wants to do workshops, who wants to do a drawing academy. We have already had several times in our very big forum an academy, and people could just sit. There was something, some performance there, and people could draw the people who are singing, who are dancing, but also the paintings which are in this very big hall. So that was really a very nice experience, and you can see that especially the family public is very sensitive to this kind of events. Nowadays you have more and more deaf children who are integrated in the schools. So we have this special activity where there is a silent kind of performance in the Magritte Museum where the children can look at the Magritte paintings in another way, because there are some performers who put the accents on a way of looking at these, on a different way of looking at these paintings.
We open late on Friday nights. We call them Friday Lates. We're open till 9 o'clock every Friday. And that opening, that time, is a very special time for people after work to come into the gallery. We might have some music, some light music. People can get a glass of wine, they can come with their friends, they can relax, and they can see the permanent collection perhaps in a slightly different environment from the normal crowded day. And they tend to come in groups about 6 o'clock, perhaps pre-dinner, spend a couple of hours here and then go on out to a club. So great way of extending our appeal to new audiences.
It's one of the most exciting things about working in communications for the Natural History Museum is that wonderful mixture, because the scientific work we do underpins everything. So all of our programming comes from the scientific work that we do. Our work on dinosaurs inspires the Dino-Snores evenings, and our work in forensic entomology underpins the crime scene events we do for adults. So it's more that there are so many opportunities. Actually deciding which ones to bring to a full programming potential is a challenge. It's a nice challenge to have. Well, we really want to be as accessible as possible for as broad an audience as possible. It's fundamental and at the heart of what we do. So any new gallery redevelopment, we will make sure that we take that through a process where we look at using an access consultant who will work with groups of users who may be impaired in some mobility impaired or have access issues in terms of their hearing or sight, to help us build the most accessible infrastructure so that they can really enjoy their experience when they come here.
O museu ele começa como um espaço que se preocupa com a realização de exposições, mas que tem também dentro do seu pensamento, do seu objetivo inicial, forte a questão da educação. Infelizmente, nós temos um dado triste aqui na Bahia: menos de 1% da população visita ou já visitou um museu. E o nosso Núcleo de Arte e Educação trabalha ostensivamente no sentido de trazer, sobretudo, o público das escolas públicas para o museu.
As ações sociais no Museu de Arte Moderna trabalham com 2 projetos específicos. Um é o projeto Linha do Abraço, um projeto realizado com crianças e adolescentes aqui da comunidade do União, uma comunidade localizada aqui nas proximidades do museu. E o outro projeto é o Zoom In Zoom Out. O Zoom In Zoom Out é um projeto que sai uma equipe de arte-educadores aqui do museu e vai até instituições de ensino formal e não formal, associações de bairro, né? Vai até a comunidade para desenvolver ações criativas, para falar sobre o museu.
Nós temos hoje não só a comunidade visitando ostensivamente o museu e utilizando-se do museu não só para ver as exposições, mas como espaço de lazer mesmo, né, das pessoas que vivem nessa comunidade. Nós oferecemos cursos específicos para essas, sobretudo crianças e adolescentes da comunidade.
O galpão que a gente chama Oficinas do MAN fizeram 30 anos em 2010, esse ano seriam 32 anos, né? E foi criado na gestão de Chico Liberato e foi uma iniciativa do professor Juarez Paraíso. E essas oficinas nasceram como oficinas de arte em série, quer dizer, eram trabalhadas aqui as 4 linguagens da gravura. Depois foram outros cursos começaram a fazer parte, a escultura, a cerâmica e mais adiante ainda o desenho e outros tipos de linguagens, e arte e tecnologia, de videoarte, história da arte, são diversas linguagens. A filosofia de importância dessas oficinas, eu acho que continua, que nasceu com o próprio professor Juarez Paraíso, que fundou, foi dar oportunidade à sociedade não acadêmica. Então aqui você não precisa passar por uma seleção de vestibular, você não precisa entrar no mundo acadêmico. Aqui, e o MAN oferece essas oficinas gratuitas para toda a sociedade, para quem tem interesse de participar. Que essas oficinas têm uma importância fundamental até na história das artes plásticas visuais da Bahia, né? Interessante a gente ver que todos os artistas da Bahia passaram aqui pelas oficinas, ou como alunos, ou como monitores, ou como professores, ou mesmo como artistas convidados para trabalhar nesse espaço como ateliê. E a procura é enorme. Você abre, às vezes faz curso de verão, faz cursos intensivos de uma semana só, e a procura é bastante grande. Hoje Salvador é enorme, né? E os cursos de arte não são ainda mais gratuitos, com a excelência dos nossos professores e do espaço, é uma coisa fantástica, né?
I think one of the most interesting areas for museums in their communications is the level of dialogue that social media has brought for institutions. So traditionally, institutions, museums would communicate by pushing out a whole load of information about themselves. And since social media has become such an important part of all of our lives, it's really changed the way that people communicate and expect to communicate. And that's brought some great opportunities for very quick dialogue with audiences, very quick dialogue with visitors. It's enabled a real speed of working. And I think that's probably the opportunity and the challenge for the future, is keeping that dialogue open. And for institutions like ourselves, really being the trusted voice within that dialogue, the voice whose opinion on the natural world is based on the science research that we do, and holding that in the dialogue that we have.
A challenge is to see your objectives and a lot of common sense, and to not lose yourself in all kind of things which are not essential. So try to see, okay, what do you want? Which type of relationship do you want to establish with your audiences? Right? Which are the tools you're going to use to help, to broaden your public, to make the artworks more accessible to them? And if you can realize that without being too much distracted by all other kind of fashionable things, I think step by step you arrive where you should be. One thing which is very important for an educational department, that is to have an input of young people. Okay? Because we can see that if we have like stagiaires and students working in the department, they give a lot of ideas, but a lot of this new generation has been raised differently than our generation. So, and for an educational department, it is extremely important to have this input.
You need to be really clever with your marketing. I think it's important that what you do is really creative and different, so it stands out, so you have impact, but also that you are very consistent with what you're trying to say. You make sure that you have very strong messaging, clear, succinct reasons to give people, so that you stand out from all the noise and clutter that there is out there. And I think one has to be very clever with the limited budgets we have to make sure that you use them very wisely and that you are very closely targeted to your public.
In the beginning of the 20th century, the museum was just for a small part of the society. Now everybody is going to the museum, really everybody. Even the people sleeping in the street, we have special program to bring them inside the museum. And so we have to build not only the narrative, because you could change narrative with audio guide and such, but the room, the space, the Greek or the Renaissance temple with the staircase. For some people it's, wow, the museum, it's boring. Just look at the building, it's official, it's heavy. There are some other ways to work, some other place to imagine with transparency, light and things like this. But it's complicated also to manage that. So that's the real challenge for the future. And it's in direct connection with the financial aspect. Because with the evolution of the economy of the museum, you are more and more as director obliged to be on the market and to stay on the market. So if you are on the market, you offer something and people are requesting something. So you have to find a balance. That's nothing to do with the old fashion, because we had an idea of the museum, we opened the door and the museum was there. Are you enjoying or not? That's not the problem, the museum is there. It's not more working this. The museum is there, but it could be empty. There are a lot of empty museums in the United States, in Europe. If you want to get more and more people in the museum, to get a living museum, you have to think about what's the idea of museum. In French, someone has said, but in museum there is a muse, and muse is amusement, it's entertaining in English, amusement. And entertaining and museum, it's the same word. And for people in the museum, no, we are not entertainment. We are culture, science, heritage, and we present something and it's closed. But if people are coming and say, museum, amusement, it's another way to think about, and we have to manage that. It's not easy.
A compreensão contemporânea sobre o que é o público de um museu está mudando e se tornando mais inclusiva. A ideia é atrair e engajar o maior número de pessoas possível. Mas para que isso funcione, a estratégia dos gestores vai exatamente ao contrário, especificando a informação e comunicação para públicos específicos. E você, conhece estratégias interessantes e inovadoras de atração de públicos para os museus? Conte pra gente, participe desse diálogo sobre gestão cultural. E não esqueça de compartilhar esse conteúdo, convidando amigos para participar dessa roda sobre gestão e cultura.